All right, so usually I go through the three films. I'm going to start a little differently today. Recently, I just posted a blog essay about the dominant culture's two experiments destroying us. And just to briefly say what those are, the first experiment is how long can we treat nature like it has dumb, separable parts that are only for human needs, right? A few centuries ago, this was a very radical idea because everyone felt the world was ensouled. Every tree, river, every landscape had spirit, sentience, agency. And then in the last few centuries, we've kind of eliminated that. How did that happen? Well, that's the second experiment, right? Um, that's what we have done. We've created people who are disconnected. They have separation consciousness. Why? Because we forgot the evolved nest. Because when you start to detach from the natural world, you start to detach from relationships in general, and you have to have some ideas, some story about why you feel separated. And then you treat the children, especially the babies, as separable objects that you need to manipulate and control and so on. And so here we are. We're devastating the ecologies all over the planet in many ways, and we are very ill. And it's spreading all over the world, right? Physically, mentally, socially, spiritually, morally. Humanity is on the rocks. Now, where did those ideas get written about first, or at least in a thorough way? In this book, Neurobiology and the Development of Human Morality, that I wrote for the Norton Interpersonal Neurobiology series. Alan Shore, one of the editors, wrote the foreword. And in this book, then, I talk about the cycles, the cycle we're in, and what's our heritage. So the first film, Breaking the Cycle, is the contrast between these two cycles. And one that we're in is the cycle of competitive detachment. Because we got so disconnected from nature and nature's processes and cycles and ways of being that we don't know how to be. And so we make up stuff and we detach and we compete because that's what we think that's all we know, right? And that cycle, it under nurtures the young because we're so disconnected and we forgot how to raise the young. And we think it's normal then for what they turn into, which is aggressive, dysregulated, reactive kinds of beings. And then those folks get to be adults, and the adults aren't very well or wise because that's part of the cycle, right? And then they keep the cycle going because they're so disconnected, over controlling, under controlling, distracted. And so then they keep that under nurturing, under care of the young going with all these other distractions. And that's the cycle we're in, the cycle of competitive detachment. But that's not our heritage. That's only the last few centuries in particular. It has roots a few millennia ago when people started to settle down and uh, hoard grain, raise grain, which you can hoard. You can't hoard yams, right? You can't tax yams. And so, no, wheat and barley and all. And then inequality starts. And once you start with inequality, somebody gets more, has more power, wants to control the rest. And then patriarchy is part of that. And that's been going on for a while. But that's not our heritage. Our heritage is the cycle of cooperative companionship. Wow. What does that mean? It means you nurture the young, you provide for basic needs, not only for the young, for everybody. And then those individuals are communally supported. It's not just mom or mom and dad. It's the whole community of supports. And they then become well-regulated, virtuous, because they get along so well on Earth with others. So they're ecologically fitted, socially fitted to get, to flourishing, to human potential. And so those adults are well mentally, physically, because they have regular healing practices as part of the nest. So the whole nest is provided to everybody throughout life, except, of course, the breastfeeding and soothing perinatal experiences are just for the babies and the young. Oh, but then those adults, they're well and wise, they then keep the cycle going. They want each person to self-actualize so that the community self-actualizes and then lasts into the future culturally. That's the indigenous way. That's the kinship worldview and know-how that comes out of the cycle of cooperative companionship. So the second film, though, is all of the films are in this book. Actually, this is the roots of it. And the second film is, sorry, the second film, the second film is The Evolved Nest. It's based on this book, written with a beautiful colleague, Gay Bradshaw, who is an animal rights and animal ecologist, runs the Carullos Institute. And in this book, we take different animals, a different animal for each chapter, and then we talk about a different aspect of the nest. So the evolved nest, I should say, and the order that we use now for our nesting ambassador program is we start with nature. We are nature, we are immersed in nature, we develop connectedness, partnership with nature. That's number one. Number two is healing practices, regular ones, because we get out of sorts, mentally, physically, relationally. We need to have regular practices. When the San Bushmen are asked how often they have practices, oh, every week, unless there's grieving. If there's grieving, you do every day. And who are the San Bushmen? They carry the genes of all of humanity. Their culture has been around for at least 150,000 years. So they provide the baselines for what I call is species normal. What's the third one? The third aspect of the evolved nest is play, self-directed social play, fun, freedom, agency, and you build all sorts of social skills, social intelligence, executive functions, uh, being able to stop and start actions and build empathy, because if your partner thinks you're too aggressive, they'll stop playing with you. So you have to pay attention and self-control. Number four, responsive relationships. We all need that. Babies especially, because they're born resembling other fetuses for almost 2 years. And so they need an external womb experience of responsive care. That includes number five, touch, affectionate touch, lots of it, pretty 24/7 for a baby. We all need that too. Not 24/7, but most of the time. And then welcoming social climate so that we all feel like we belong, that we matter, and that we get along with people who are very different from us. And number seven, multiple nurturers. Babies especially need lots of people caring for them because they are so needy, because they're like fetuses, remember? And we all need mentors throughout life. And then finally, the last two are really for the young, breastfeeding, child-directed breastfeeding for at least 2.5 years for peaceful societies. 4 years is the average. I know it just, what do you mean? Blows the mind of the modern industrial world, but it is amazing. It builds immune system, physical strength, et cetera, et cetera. And then the last one is soothing perinatal experiences. So you can see these are backwards for a baby. Soothing perinatal, the mother feels supported during pregnancy. Birth is smooth and soothing, and there's no separation afterwards, et cetera, et cetera. So in the book, we select several of those nest components. We select African elephants for mutual accompaniment. So that's that multiple nurturers always present. For breastfeeding, sperm whales. Sperm whales also, the mom creates a unique song for the young and sings that to the infant, and everyone else stays quiet so the infant can learn that song. For shared care, also emperor penguins. For play, free play, beavers. I always think beavers are workers, but they're playing too, and so on. And my favorite, one of my favorites, of course, they're all my favorites, but is moral commitment, gray wolves, because they will stay with their partner. They will stay and take care of the young, even if they're not the parents, and so on. So this is nature's way of raising children and creating connected communities. That's the second film. The third film is called Reimagining Humanity, and it's based, again, rooted in the first book, but then it's also in this book written with my esteemed colleague, Four Arrows. It's a quite popular book, and the title is Restoring the Kinship Worldview. Indigenous Voices introduce 28 precepts for rebalancing life on Earth. And this is a dialogue book. We actually, though, take 28 of the over 50 precepts, manifestations of the kinship worldview. The indigenous worldview is the other term for it. And we have a nice, and Lisa will put in the chat, the worldviewliteracy.org website, where you can see all 50 of the indigenous or kinship worldview manifestations contrasted with the dominant worldviews manifestations. But in this book, we take 28 of them, and that was based on what we could find quotes for. Sometimes people don't talk about the things they practice, right? So you have to find quotes. And what we do, we take a quote about the particular precept or manifestation, and then we have a dialogue back and forth about it based on our own experiences. So chapter 1, recognition of spiritual energies in nature. And we quote Mourning Dove, who's Okanagan in Sinixt. For all earth entities are sentient, we quote Robin Wall Kimmerer, who's citizen Potawatomi Nation. For law, I'm picking out the people you might know, laws of nature as highest rules for living, we quote Winona LeDuc, who's Ojibwe, and so on. So it was a fun book to write, and it's fun to read, I think. So those are the 3 films and the 3 books that are related. And so we have now our Nesting Ambassador program, which is intended to help people learn about the principles, the 9 principles of the Evolved Nest. I mean, the 9 are the ones that we've written about, studied in my lab at Notre Dame. There's more things that could be studied, of course, but these are the ones identified by anthropologists all over the world, in hunter-gatherer societies, and even other traditional societies. And so the Nesting Ambassador program is going to help you learn what those are, some more details about why they're important, and the practice is what it looks like. And then we help the Nesting Ambassador develop a tool that they can use in their walk of life, whatever it is, as an educator, as a therapist. And we have at nestedworld.org examples of our nesting ambassadors who are already out there spreading the word and initiating the transformation of the world.